Welcome to Men Making a Difference, PGSAO men who inspire and motivate.
Mide Olaloye, thank you so much for joining me today. You know, so often the constituents here in Prince George's County get to hear from me as the elected prosecutor, but you're also working very hard on their behalf every single day. So I wanted them to get to know you as well. So why don't you tell our viewers a little about your role in this office?
Sure, and thank you for having me on this Zoom meeting. So I prosecute cases in the Guns and Drugs Unit. Essentially what that means is that I handle cases where either a person is charged with having a gun or a large amount of controlled dangerous substance, whether it's cocaine, PCP, or marijuana. So for the guns, usually it's somebody who is prohibited. And what I mean is that that person has either has been convicted of a crime that prohibits them from possessing a gun, or they're underage, which also prohibits them from possessing a gun. And then in regards to drugs, it's usually an amount where we charge them with possession with intent to distribute, which essentially we're saying that the person has a large amount of drugs where it's not for personal use, but it's more for the use of selling it. They're doing it for monetary purposes to sell it. So those essentially are the kind of cases that I handle in my unit.
Awesome. So what inspired you to become a prosecutor? Was there someone or something that inspired you?
Well, it was really when I started interning at the state attorney's office. I've been with this office since summer of 2013. I've always known I wanted to be a lawyer. I just didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. Always knew that I wanted to be in court. It wasn't until my first semester, or after my first semester of law school, when I interned here at the state's attorney's office, that I really got to understand what it's like to be a prosecutor, the big decisions you make, the power you make, and how you can really change and help your community. So I think once I started interning, that kind of really drove me and kind of turned my niche into being a state's attorney, and here I am.
So what motivates you every day to do the work that you do?
Just knowing that I'm serving the community, just knowing that I'm doing my part in helping, whether it's keeping the community safe, whether it's giving second chances, whatever it may be. I think what keeps me going is knowing that what I'm doing is important. I don't necessarily need someone to say that what you're doing is important or thank you. I think just me knowing that me serving my community and doing the things that aren't seen on TV or doing the things that people don't really know is what helps and what keeps the people safe and keeps the community safe. It's the little things. So I think that's really what keeps me pushing and really keeps me motivated as an assistant state's attorney.
What unique perspective do you think you bring to this office?
I think most importantly is that I'm from Prince George's County. I grew up in this county. This is home. So I think one thing that I am truly proud of is that I can say that I represent a community in which I look like them. They look like me.
Yes.
And it's really important because I can't tell you how many times when I'm in court, and I'm talking to a young African-American man, and I can say, like, I've been in your position, I know what it's like. I grew up here, I have parents who were immigrants. So I didn't grow up with a lot of money. I grew up, my parents worked 2-3 jobs to make sure that they made ends meet. And I always tell them, if I can make it, if I can do it, you can too. And I think that's important because they can see that this is somebody who looks like me. This is somebody who lives here, who understands what it's like to live or what it's like to be here, as opposed to someone who may not look like them and they may not get it. They may not say, or they may not really want to listen to what another person might say, because what they'll say is, you don't know what I've been through. You don't know what I had. You don't know the life I lived. And I think me growing up, me being a young African-American man, I can relate with them and I can talk to them from that perspective because I've been there.
No, that's a very important perspective to have. And we are grateful that you're in this office and that you do bring that perspective where even our defendants can relate to you. So that's really important. Tell us about, maybe one of your more challenging cases.
So it's funny because, you know, I always have this conversation with just like friends and they always say, you know, tell me, you know, what it's like being a state's attorney. Tell me, you know, kind of what the difficult things you go through. I don't necessarily have a specific, but I have so many cases where they were just challenging because of the physical evidence. You know, we are in a day and age where if you don't have physical evidence, to say it's hard is an understatement. And you know, it's a lot of times, especially back when I was in district court, you know, the volume of cases we get, you know, it's really one of those where I talk to victims or I talk to witnesses and, you know, they present their evidence and I tell them, you know, this is kind of what we're looking at, because that phrase is, it's not what you know, it's what you can prove.
Yes, very true.
I have a perfect example. Back when I was in district court, I had a case, a theft case. The victim pretty much alleged that her ex-boyfriend at the time was in the home. They got into an argument. She goes into the shower. He allegedly comes back into the home and leaves. She comes out the shower and her phone is gone. And so she was alleging that he stole his phone. And so I speak to her and then I speak to the son. And he tells me, he was like, yeah, his father, who was the then ex-boyfriend, came back into the house. And then he also told me, I saw him leave the house, but I didn't see him leave with anything. And I said, did you see him holding a phone? He says, no. I said, did you see anything in his pockets? He said, yes, but I think it was his wallet. So now I have, you know, the victim who's saying he took the phone. And then I have the son who was actually there saying, I didn't see him with the phone. Even though luckily we did resolve the case, it just kind of shows the challenges where, you know, how can I put it up? I have to evaluate, do I have enough to make this case beyond a reasonable doubt? Because that's the standard we go by. You know, it's not what I think he did, it's can I prove that
can
he did
I prove it? Absolutely. Right. Absolutely. So, right. So I know sometimes, you know, it probably, you know, we feel bad when we can't move forward, right, with cases, even though we know that our victims are, you know, are true victims. But if we don't have the evidence available to us, then ethically we can't move forward with those cases. And that is very, very, very challenging. And so how does this job, because you're dealing with so many layers, right? How does this job impact you personally?
I think it kind of goes back into what motivates me. It just kind of gives a sense of satisfaction. Just know that me personally, I'm doing everything I can to come to a good resolution. I do, you know, I can sleep well at night knowing that I didn't do anything shady. I didn't do anything to try to win a case. To me, it's not about doing what you can to win a case. It's about doing the right thing. And, you know, sometimes you get cases where, like you said, we just can't go forward. And I can't, me personally, I can't sit there and put up a case knowing that I don't have the evidence to do that. That's, you know, I've always said that it's about doing the right thing. Your integrity is on the line at all times. You don't want to mess that up. And whether that involves, you know, having to sit down with a victim, having to sit down with the witness, letting them know this is what we have, and letting them know what this is not what we don't have. But it's a matter of just knowing that every day I'm doing the right thing. Every day I'm working hard to be a better person, to be a better attorney. And I think that kind of just keeps me going every day, knowing that I'm doing everything I can and I'm doing what I can to make the community happy, to make the community safe, and to make the people around me safe.
Awesome, awesome. So with a greater focus, both nationally and locally, on the work that we're doing in terms of criminal justice reform movement, as well as the policing reform movement, what challenges and what opportunities do you see for our office?
That's a really in-depth question. I think one of the challenges is we also have to communicate to officers that we still need them to do their job. I think when we look at the big picture, and to be quite frank, you know, it wouldn't surprise me if a lot of officers are not as motivated as before, just because of the kind of climate that we are in. But I think one of the challenges that we have to let them know is that we still need you to do your job. We still need you to serve and protect. There are ways you can do that without the incident again of George Floyd. But we have to let them know that they still need to do their job. And I think another part of that is our citizens. If we can teach our citizens their rights, being a prosecutor and just knowing tons of people, both friends and family, one thing I've noticed is that the citizen doesn't know what they can or what they can't do, what they can or cannot say, what they have a right to say no to, what they don't have a right to say no to. I think teaching now is more important than ever. And whether it's little stuff, like what's probable cause, what to have probable cause to do, the difference between probable cause and like reasonable suspicion, which is a lesser burden. When you're talking to an officer, when you have the right to walk away, when you have the right to say, I don't want to talk anymore. I think if we get those little things, and the average citizen at least knows their basic rights, I think that can really alleviate just many of the issues we have. Because a lot of times, and this is from personal experience and from working, a lot of times I get cases where a defendant may say, you don't have the right to do this, where in fact the officer kind of did have the right to do that.
Right.
And it's an issue of them not knowing. And so I think knowledge and just teaching them and them knowing, hey, you have the right to do this. You have the right to say this. You have the right to say no to that. I think now is the opportunity, given the climate we're in, where, to be quite frank, a lot of citizens just officers. And so I think now is the perfect time to just be a teaching moment to both officers and to both citizens to say, hey, these are your basic rights. We want you to know that. So in case you do come in contact with an officer for whatever encounter may be, you know your rights, your basic rights at the very minimum.
Absolutely. So it sounds like I can put you on our team that are educating the community. So thank you so much for letting me know where your passion lies, and we will use that. We will use it. But any parting thoughts? Any advice you want to give to maybe a young person who may be listening, who's interested in maybe becoming a lawyer or perhaps in becoming a prosecutor?
Absolutely. I would definitely say we need more. And specifically, to Black men, we need more of you to come and serve your community. And I'm not just saying for Prince George's County, wherever you may be. I think it's important, and I think you don't really know the change you're doing until you're in it. It's one thing when you're looking from the outside, but when you're on the inside working, that's when you really can appreciate the work you're doing. And I have a quick example. I think this was last year. I was walking to the courthouse, I was walking to work, and I get stopped right as I'm walking in by a random guy and says, hey, do you remember me? And I'm like, no, I don't. I have cases all the time. I'm like, I don't remember you. And he was like, yeah, you had my case in district court. I think it was a criminal case. And he said, yeah, you had my case in district court. And, you gave me a second chance. You didn't prosecute me. I just want to let you know I got my life together. I got a job. Things are going really well. And I just wanted to say thank you. And to me, that's been my greatest moment so far of being a prosecutor. It's the things like that you may not know that people see, that people notice. Again, I still don't know. I don't remember him from what case it was. But the fact that he came to me and said, thank you for giving me that second chance. I got, my things in order. I got my life together.
Yes.
And I'm doing really well. And I just wanted to say thank you. So it's things like that really keep me pushing, knowing that I'm doing the right thing. I may not get a thank you every single day, but I don't need a thank you every single day.
Right.
Because that one thank you was enough. Because at least I know that I'm making a change in some form of fashion. So I would absolutely say, if you are having thoughts, being a prosecutor is a great job. It's tough. It requires a lot of work and a lot of dedication. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's a really tough job, but it's absolutely rewarding. It's one of the jobs where that one thank you, whether it's from a victim, whether it's from a defendant who gave a second chance, whether it's from a witness, that one thank you would really mean a lot. It really changes your life, because then you really know that what you're doing, people see it, even though you may not get an affirmation every single day. People see it, people notice it, and people are grateful for it. So that's what I would definitely say in terms of just anyone who's out there thinking of being a lawyer, being a prosecutor specifically, absolutely go for it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. You are amazing. You do great work here. You're an awesome individual, and we're expecting big things from you. So thank you so much for joining me today. And thank you to all of our viewers for listening and watching. And until next time, we'll see ya.
Thank you for having me.